Maya's shift had started before sunrise, the hour when the diner smelled of burnt coffee and hope wore thin. She tied her apron twice, an old habit, and told herself today would be better. The breakfast rush thinned, replaced by the late morning quiet where every customer mattered. That's when he walked in. The man didn't look like trouble. He didn't look like generosity either. His suit was dark, perfectly pressed, the kind that didn't wrinkle when its owner sat. He chose a corner booth, nodded once, and opened his phone. Maya greeted him with her warmest smile anyway. "Coffee?" she asked. He glanced up, eyes unreadable. "Black," he said, voice calm, distant. As she refilled his cup, Maya noticed small things. How he said, "Please," how he folded his napkin neatly, how he never complained even when the eggs took longer than usual. She treated him like she treated everyone else. Extra napkins without being asked, a joke about the weather, a quiet check-in to see if he needed anything more. No response beyond a polite nod. That was fine. Silence was easier than rudeness. When he finished, he paid in full. The receipt slid back to her with a crisp edge. Maya didn't look at it right away. She stacked plates, wiped the counter, steadied herself. Then she glanced down. Tip. $0. Her chest tightened. She thought of the envelope on her kitchen table marked rent, of her son asleep on the couch with a wheeze in his breath, of the inhaler she was stretching past its refill date. For a moment, bitterness rose, sharp and hot. She pressed it down. Maya smoothed the receipt, tucked it away, and forced her shoulders straight. "Thank you," she said softly, even though he was already standing. The door chimed as he left. The diner hummed on, and Maya went back to work, unaware that the empty line on that receipt was only the beginning. Maya had almost finished clearing the table when her hand brushed something unusual under the plate. At first, she thought it was a crumb or a napkin that had slipped off, but it didn't move as she nudged it. Her curiosity piqued. She lifted the plate carefully, and there it was, a small, thick envelope tucked beneath the porcelain, as if deliberately hidden. Her heart skipped a beat. Who leaves something under their plate? The diner had seen its fair share of oddities. Spilled coffee, forgotten wallets, even a stray dog once, but never a hidden envelope like this. She glanced around. The man was gone, the booth empty except for the lingering scent of his black coffee and the faint trace of expensive cologne. Hands slightly trembling, she picked up the envelope and turned it over. There was no stamp, no return address. Just her name written in elegant, flowing handwriting, Maya. She hesitated, her mind racing. Could it be a prank? Or worse, something bad? She carefully opened it. Inside was a note, folded neatly, and beneath it, something that made her gasp. The note read, "I don't tip on receipts. I tip in truth." Her fingers shook as she lifted the paper, revealing a cashier's check, the amount so large her eyes widened in disbelief. It was more money than she had ever seen, more than she earned in a year at the diner. She sat down on the booth seat, the check still in her hands, staring at it as if it might disappear. The note continued, almost like a whisper meant only for her. "I watched how you treated the table that stiffed you. No anger, no shortcuts, kindness without audience." Maya's mind raced. Could this really be true? Could someone have been watching her, unseen, and rewarded her not for the money she had earned but for the way she treated people, even when they gave nothing in return? A wave of emotion hit her. Relief, disbelief, and something like hope, fragile but insistent. She clutched the envelope to her chest, feeling its weight, not just of the money, but of recognition, of validation, of a world that sometimes saw her struggle and rewarded her courage. That one simple act, hidden under a plate, had changed everything. The diner's chatter seemed softer now, the clatter of dishes less sharp. Maya breathed, letting the moment sink in, knowing life as she had known it was about to shift in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Maya's hands trembled as she held the check and reread the note for what felt like the 100th time. Her manager, Tom, noticed her pale face and hurried over. "Maya, are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his tone. She looked up, blinking back tears, and showed him the envelope. Tom's eyes widened. "No way," he whispered. As that, Maya nodded, barely able to speak. "I don't know. It's from him. I mean, Evan Cross." Tom whistled softly. "The billionaire," he said, almost incredulously. The one who rarely, if ever, shows himself in public. Yes, Maya said, her voice shaky. He left this, a note, and a check. He said he was watching me at the table, and he said, she trailed off, trying to breathe past the sudden weight of disbelief and hope. Kindness without audience, Tom finished for her, reading the note over her shoulder. He watched you, and he rewarded you for just being you. Maya sank into the booth, the reality beginning to settle like warm sunlight on her skin. The man she had thought indifferent, maybe even stingy, had been observing more than she could have imagined. He had seen her patience, her quiet generosity, the way she smiled even when her tip jar was empty. It wasn't about the money he left, it was about recognition, about seeing her human decency when no one else seemed to notice. Then she noticed something else, a number scribbled at the bottom of the note. A phone number. With a deep breath, she dialed it, unsure what to expect. The line rang twice before a calm, measured voice answered. Hello, Maya, this is Evan Cross. Her breath caught. Mr. Cross, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I received your note. I'm glad you did, he interrupted softly. I wanted to ensure that the right people are rewarded, not for money earned, but for character shown. The check is yours to use as you see fit. Beyond that, there's an opportunity, if you're willing. Maya felt tears spill freely now. Opportunity, she couldn't even begin to imagine. But in that moment, the exhaustion of years, of worry, sleepless nights, and constant struggle, lifted slightly. She realized that what had seemed like a random act of fortune was actually an acknowledgement of her resilience, her integrity, her ability to keep kindness at the center of her life, even when the world offered little in return. By the time she hung up, Maya knew one thing. Nothing in her life would ever be the same. This wasn't charity. This was faith in her, and that faith alone was priceless. Weeks passed since that fateful day, and life for Maya began to shift in ways she had never dared to imagine. The check had been deposited, but more importantly, the call from Evan Cross had opened doors she hadn't thought possible. It wasn't just about money, it was about opportunity, stability, and dignity. She now had a scholarship that would cover her evening classes, childcare fully provided so she could focus on building a career, and a flexible position at one of Cross's philanthropic foundations. It was work that mattered, that aligned with the values she held dear. The days when she worried whether she could afford milk or pay the electric bill seemed like a distant memory, replaced by mornings where she walked her son to school with a calm heart, rather than a clenched one. At the diner, her coworkers noticed the change. Though Maya never shared the full story, she continued to serve with her characteristic warmth, yet there was a new light in her eyes, a quiet confidence, a subtle reminder that her efforts, her patience, her integrity, had been seen. One afternoon, she returned to the booth where it all began. The porcelain table bore the faint scratches of years, the coffee cup rings marking countless breakfasts. She placed a small frame on it, inside the words of the note. Kindness counts, even when no one is watching. It was not a display of wealth or reward, but a symbol, a promise to herself and to anyone who might notice. That one act of observation, that hidden gesture from a stranger, had shown her that true generosity was about more than money. It was about character, compassion, and the quiet choices we make every day. Her son ran into the diner, laughing, chasing the sunlight streaming through the windows. Maya smiled, the weight she had carried for years lifting a little more each day. She realized that the billionaire's gift wasn't just financial, it was a validation of her life's quiet battles, a reminder that her efforts mattered, even in the smallest, unseen moments. Maya knew she would never forget that morning, the envelope under the plate, and the man who had watched her without expectation. She had been given more than money, she had been given a chance to transform her world, not through luck, but through recognition of her own unwavering kindness. And from that day on, she carried the lesson with her, in every smile, every gesture, and every plate she cleared. True generosity and integrity always leave a mark, even when no one is watching. Her life had changed forever, and it had all begun with a single act of unnoticed kindness.